okay, you know what? This is a whole other tangent. I will tell you this, though. Here's the deal. I think we get stuck between wanting to be these independent, powerful, self-sustained women and wanting to also feel protected. And I think sometimes we think we can't have both because one might take away from the other. There's something so true about divine femininity. And as I've been married before, and I didn't, in that marriage and in several relationships before that, I can tell when my partner is of the protector mentality, I'm in my divine feminine. I might be carrying a pistol. I might be, aware of my surroundings, but my partner.
You may be a black belt, Jitsu, all of that stuff.
Yes.
It doesn't. You may be even more powerful physically than your partner.
Absolutely.
More skilled, but still. Go ahead.
But still feel protected and safe with that person.
Welcome back to CF Podcast, guys. Kai over here, and we've got Sofia from Fit for Fia channels, and she does really cool stuff, which we're going to get to. Sofia, first of all, glad to have you here. I know you guys just went through North Carolina, the whole flooding and all that stuff. You guys are good, right?
We are good. And yes, thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to be in your studio. I love seeing this online. So being here in person is a wonderful experience so far. So my best friend Lisa and I, we just traveled to originally compete in the tactical games in Lawrence, South Carolina. She very graciously and bravely drove us through the storm up to our Airbnb. And then the next morning we woke up without power. And we got an update that the tactical games events, even just that day, were being pushed off. We were essentially locked in our Airbnb for a little bit because there was a massive lake beside us, and then we tried a couple alternative paths other than the main roads to get out, and we couldn't. So we sat down, held hands, told each other some secrets that now we have to live with the other knowing, because we thought we were going to die, and we're here. So
all right, well, that's good to hear. And anybody who's watching this right now, it's September 28th, and unfortunately a huge tornado storm went through the let's just say eastern part of the country, but North Carolina got hit real hard, like Asheville and a bunch of other Raleigh and a bunch of these other big cities, and I think 100 confirmed dead and 1,000 plus missing. People are out of power, homes are destroyed, so prayers goes to them.
Absolutely.
So
yes,
I'm glad you guys are all right. I'm really happy to have you here. And now some of these folks who are watching our podcasts, they know who you are, but some obviously may not know who you are. So with that being said, let's get started with you telling us who you are.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, my name is Sofia, and I started my channel back in the day. My journey in self-defense, I love to just give this little, I call it my Eiffel Tower elevator pitch, somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I started when I was 13 in a traditional style martial arts called Kuksulwan, and
I'd never heard Kuksulwan.
Yeah, it's Korean. It's not very well known, understandably so.
Okay.
It was more of a cash grab. People were buying their belts. It wasn't really a martial, not even in the traditional sense. So we moved on, my dad and I, because we trained together. We moved on to Musulwan. So it was a branch off of Kuksulwan. I know, it's wild. So we did that.
These,
they just
sounds like Chinese companies that just change one word in the company and just reintroduce a product. That
absolutely,
failed.
That's what they did. Actually, the origin story of Musulwan Kuksulwan is really interesting. There were brothers that were grandmasters of this art, and they split off because they differed in their style of teaching. One wanted to be more weapon-centric. The other one wanted to stay with the more traditional forms. So moving on to Musulwan was fitting because I was very interested in weapons. I had knives when I was a little girl. That was like my favorite thing to collect. And moving on.
Okay.
I'm
You still do?
Absolutely, yes.
All right,
I
we'll
work
get to
with
'em.
Cold Steel, so moving on. But yeah, so I started Musawan. 7 years later, I acquired my black belt. That was a big, that was my senior year of high school. That was my goal, to graduate with that. And then I started to become aware of the limitations that traditional martial arts brings. So I got into Muay Thai. It became the love of my life. I wanted to be a Muay Thai fighter. My parents were horrified. At the time, I was a competitive violinist. I still play violin, but I was competitive then.
Okay.
And my mom was terrified that I'd break my fingers. So I just didn't tell her how
Playing the martial
doing
arts.
Muay Thai.
Okay.
Yes, because I balanced those two worlds. I come home with bruises, concussions, all that stuff. So finally, her biggest fear came true. I broke my nose, actually. Had a few nose surgeries to correct that. So I had to take some time away from full combatives. So getting hit in the face, doing that, and I felt very limited. And that's what brought me into concealed carry. I started getting into firearms, realized how it's an entire world.
Yeah.
You're adding this very important element to your life in every capacity, from training to concealment to storage. So I started sharing my journey on social media. That's how I came about Fit for Fia. And it started as a fitness page technically, but now I just call it, it's what fits for me. So if someone gives me hate for my personal experience, I just direct them back to my handle. And I have a podcast called She Shield. So that is like I said, the really long elevator pitch.
That is really cool. And I have got so many questions, and I'll try to get to all of them. And okay, let's go back to where you said you started when you were really young.
Yes.
This whole interest in the martial arts. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from?
Absolutely. So as a child, I was in a compromising position. And I felt powerless. I also, from a young age,
how old were you?
I began probably when I was 7 or 8.
Okay.
So pretty young, probably a little before that, but I don't remember much. So, and I was always really protective of my sisters. I always felt like the tough one of the three. I was the youngest. I still am. They are alive, so I should say I am the youngest. And I always if there was trouble, I always stood in the middle. And I've always just had this very protector instinct. I'm that way of my friends. If anyone comes around my friends and I don't feel like the vibes are there, even if they think I'm being dramatic, so that started from a young age I think I was introduced to the potential of a man from a young age. And so I started seeing that, in everyone, the potential for that in everyone. And I think it just brought this awareness to my character. And then because of that, I felt like I was given this piece of knowledge. Because of that, I took it, I ran, and I started things like Muay Thai, and I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the same time that I started that one traditional art that I mentioned earlier. So yes, my goal was to become empowered by that experience and to help other people, because I was so young, I didn't know who to talk to. And so my social media platform now is my way of giving others a resource. I've actually had some young women write me. Those are always really cathartic moments of just moments where I have to think about what I wish someone would have told me when I was a kid. I've had true teenagers write me and say, I don't know what to do about my home situation. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I wanted. This is what I needed. And I didn't know who to ask. So that's my origin story, the summarized one.
Yeah, isn't that cool that when you were younger, you didn't have anybody to talk to. And now, thanks to social media, which social media has its own, obviously, horrible sides, but also very good pros too, that somebody message you, or some people message you, and you feel like you went back into time and you're messaging yourself. Isn't that something really cool? And now you're in a position to actually maybe give advice or even do something about it. That's gotta feel really good. I feel that myself as well. So you said you knew, or you learned the potential of man. You mean physical?
Yes.
How strong men can be over females in general? Okay.
Absolutely.
And so you got into some martial arts. and you found your own niche, and you started going with that. And you brought up Muay Thai, and did you compete with that at all professionally?
I never did.
Or amateur?
I know, yeah. I competed up until about 3 weeks to my fight. I broke my nose, and I'll get a little sad telling the story because I was so close. We were like picking out my opponent, like this woman who was, she's actually taller than me, which I was terrified of. I was like really hoping I had someone in height. But anyway, so I remember my coach liked to introduce wrestling to our training sessions because there were a ton of wrestlers, cage fighters, and Muay Thai fighters all in the same class. And I didn't want to train with the other classes because they were the fighters. So I chose to go to their 3-hour long course every day, and we would run in the morning as well. But I remember the final nose break where I could not breathe out of my left nostril. I realized I couldn't take any more concussive blows. I remember going to my dad's cardiology clinic was like 5 minutes down the road. I was still in my Muay Thai shorts and my muscle top, and I didn't even take my shin guards off. I got in the car, drove down to his clinic, and I was holding my nose, and I was like, Dad, I need you to I asked the nurse to like have him step out, and he was like, oh, Sofia, like, oh my God, like, why did you do this? So after that, I realized like it was either get a nose surgery or just not be able to sleep well, sleep correctly, breathe correctly.
Oh, yeah.
At the time I was going off to medical school. I won't go down that.
I want to know. Like you said, your dad's clinic.
Yes.
Is he a doctor?
He's a cardiologist, internal medicine, and sleep specialist.
Okay.
He's triple boarded, incredibly intelligent. And I was pre-med my whole life. So I chose this industry over that one for sure.
Okay, so you went to, and I want to get to him.
Sure.
We're just going to start slowly peeling the onion.
Okay,
right?
yeah, okay. I'm ready.
So you
went
crying. To your, that's good. Hey, if that's how you feel. You go to your dad's place, and of course, you get a few surgeries to correct the nose, and you decide to step away from Muay Thai. You said you went into Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes, thank you.
Is that because you didn't want to have any facial hits?
Got you. Yes.
Is that why?
Great question. So I began Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu around the same time, truly began it at the same time I began Muay Thai. I'd done it a little bit when I was younger. That was my first nose break. And then I actually still train Jiu-Jitsu to this day, but it's looked different over the years. So when my surgeon, my second nose surgery, he said, you can't do anything anymore. If you get this hit, he was like, I can't make it look normal. You're going to be Michael Jackson essentially by the end of it.
Really?
And I was like, okay, well, crap, because this is the light of my life. If anyone listening does Jiu-Jitsu, they'll understand. Like once you start it, it's truly a way of life, from the social community side to just the mental, the challenge of it all. Like it's a thinking game. It's physical. I absolutely love it. So I was really sad to hear that. That's what encouraged me to go and buy my first pistol. But I do train Jiu-Jitsu currently. It's been difficult with the travel, as you can imagine. But I'm a blue belt, and I have to train with a helmet. So I wear a specialty helmet. I'm one of those.
For your ears or your nose?
It's for my nose. It's a complete face shield. And so in Jiu-Jitsu, I'm sure there's cooperative rolling and there's competitive rolling. Mm-hmm. Cooperative is where you're learning a technique. You might give someone mild resistance, say 30% resistance, and then you can move into competitive training.
It's all
out. I'd say anywhere in the 75 to 100% range of effort and resistance. So when I do competitive style rolling, I have to put that beautiful helmet on, and then I have my partner typically put a helmet on as well to protect his or her face. So because there's actually metal in my helmet,
I see what you're saying.
Making sure nothing can get me. Because my last and final nose break before the surgery was someone had me in spider guard. In order to break spider guard, of course, I rolled my elbows in, stepped in, and bent down at the same time, and she kicked me in the nose. I didn't think I could get hit in Jiu-Jitsu.
Well, try to move the leg around. Is that what
basically,
not direct.
Right, she did not mean to at all. Yes, she was trying to kind of thrust, I think, her hips in, and she kicked her leg forward to do so, and it caught my nose. She's actually still my training partner to this day. I finally told her that it was that nose break. I was like, remember when I didn't come back to training for a while? But anyway, you can break your nose in Jiu-Jitsu, but it's it is more rare. I don't want to scare anyone away from it. My
Yeah.
nose had already been broken, so it was easier to break. I want to be very clear
Yeah.
about that.
Now, so how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu for?
So started when I was 13 for about 6 months. That initial nose break was really traumatic. It, like my septum was so deviated.
Within
after
6
that.
months?
Yes. I
Okay.
trained with an upper belt. She was going way too hard for me being like
You got to
an
prove
amateur.
herself. You know, I'm an
Yeah.
upper belt. I'm not going to go ahead and tap to a white belt.
Exactly. And the story is actually kind of funny. She broke my nose, yet she was the one crying. So I had this wad of paper towels. My nose was just pouring blood. She's bawling her eyes out, and she's saying in between sobs, "Your nose was so pretty. You're so young."
Oh, I see. She's
And I was
crying
like,
because she's feeling
she
bad.
felt bad. She
Well,
was like, "But you're so young, and I broke it, and it's so bad now." And I was just like, "Okay." And I'm rubbing her back, like,
Let
I'm
me
trying
break
to-
yours too, so you feel.
I know how to fix this. Yes, exactly. So it's
funny.
an interesting story. But yes, took a break, went back during my Muay Thai time. So I took it really seriously for about 2 years, got my blue belt, and then I did the classic blue belt move, and I took a big break because of the nose. But, you know.
I know what I'm doing right now. I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah,
Is that what
exactly.
it is?
Yes. Everyone, it's such a classic story. It's so embarrassing to tell. But once I give them context, I'm like, look,
Listen, I got an
different for me.
excuse, all
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I'm not like other girls.
So what, were you no-gi or gi?
So gi, but I'm starting to love no gi, and actually,
I'm sorry, you can't beat it.
actually, so
People are like, oh, screw you, Kaya.
exactly.
Yeah, no, gi is obviously it's got a place.
Right. But you prefer no gi? Is that what you're saying?
I've only done no-gi.
Only no gi.
I've done gi a couple of times. I'm
So
going to
you
be
have
honest
to
with
throw
you.
yourself in there a little bit.
I do. Literally in the back of my truck right now, in the bed of my
Yeah?
truck, I got my gi.
Whoa.
It's just been sitting there for months.
That's awesome.
I just like no-gi. It just feels
I get
so
that.
much better.
I get that. And you can
Yeah.
apply it to... Actually, I can't speak about this because I went from gi to no gi. But I would think, in my opinion, wouldn't it be easier to go from no gi to gi? Because you're like the grips make... Can't you grip the same in no gi as you would in gi, but you can't do it the other way around? Because we don't have clothing to grab in no gi, but we do in gi. Does that make sense?
I guess gi has like a different style. Like, of course, there's a
Right.
lot of moves that you do.
Yes.
It's jiu-jitsu. But
Right.
with gi, people like this guy, I did a few sessions with gi. This guy just choked me with just my gi. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, wait. I'm like, I didn't give him my arm. He just
Right.
grabbed the collar
Yeah.
area, right? He started
Little
pulling. I'm
Ezekiel.
like, okay, what's he doing? And then I just see that he's pulling the other one, and then he just like his
Oh.
his elbows are like or wrists are just
Yeah.
on my neck. I'm like, oh crap. Okay, I guess I'm gonna tap on this one.
Right. Yes.
It's very different, and
Yes.
people say that it applies to real world
Right.
because you're wearing clothes and all that. But it's different. Like
Yes.
I definitely had a harder time rolling with gi than with no gi. No gi, I just
Right.
feel like I see a lot of stuff that's coming.
Right.
With gi, I needed more time to kind of learn how some of those moves work.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's I just think I roll around so much easier
Yeah.
with no gi.
Yeah. Same.
So what belt? You were blue belt, but what degree? You just graduated to blue belt and you were there?
Yes. And since I've only been back about truly 6 months. So,
Okay.
Yes.
That's good. Anybody who doesn't know about jiu-jitsu belts, so you got, generally speaking,
Right.
right, depending on obviously who, some coaches won't graduate you for a long time, right? They just want, if they're blue belt go to a competition, they want to make sure that blue belt's so advanced.
Yeah.
Blue belt, let's just say, they're dominating competitions, right? And but some, they just kind of like to give out,
Right.
depending on the coach, whoever you're doing it under. But let's just go through the belts real quick, and I'll get to the guns in a second. But jiu-jitsu has white belt and like generally 4 degrees, 4 stripes, whatever they call them, and then you got the blue, then you got 4 degrees, and then you got the purple 4, and then brown 4, and then you got your black, and then you kind of add degrees from there. It really takes, if you go like nonstop all the time from white belt to a black belt graduation, on average 10 years.
Right.
Right? Is that true?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. A committed 10 years.
Committed
Absolutely.
10 years.
Mhm.
Exactly. I've started jiu-jitsu back in 2015. Well, in 2011, I did my first. A
Okay.
few, like maybe a month, I kind of like went and tried it, and then
Right.
never went back. And then
Right.
2015, I went back at it.
Okay.
And I don't even want to say I went back. I started, let's just say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just did a few months and then stopped, and then a few months off, a few months on, like that. And I would say in the last 3 years, I've done a few here and there, but I've just kind of been really off. But I was, so I never graduated.
Okay.
Because I would always do no-gi, and I never cared what belt I was.
That's a great way to
I never
train.
cared. I just
Absolutely.
want to go and roll with people, have a good time, learn techniques.
Right.
And you learn by tapping a lot of times too.
Yes,
you know?
of course. Yes.
My coach would tell me, like one day I asked him, I was like, Coach, because I was curious, like, hey, what level do you think I'm in? My coach is like, I would put you in a couple stripe blue belt at that level.
Okay.
I said, okay, that's it. But I never held a belt or anything like that.
Right.
It is, in my opinion, one of the best combat sports, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
It is a lifestyle, like you said. I highly recommend it. Great exercise. It gives you a lot of confidence on the ground. Like even though I haven't gone in a while, if I go down on the ground right now, even somebody that knows what they're doing, I'm not going to be an easy bite for them.
Absolutely.
Okay. If they don't know what they're doing, it's bad days for them.
Right.
Like I'm feeling very confident about that. And that confidence was given to me by doing jiu-jitsu for years. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And Greco-Roman wrestling. Lisa and I just went to the Combatives Association Summit. That was, she killed it for not having any grappling experience. She went in and stayed intentional and focused the whole time, and she got a little sampling plate of Jiu-Jitsu, Greco-Roman wrestling, weapons-based entanglement, and then of course they did a great job at the summit combining those three principles. But if someone's listening and maybe Jiu-Jitsu doesn't seem like their thing, wrestling is also a great option. Seriously,
wrestling, guys.
Yes. Have you done any?
So I've never done any wrestling.
Okay.
But I have been to total of five different jiu-jitsu schools, like traveling to another state. And I was like, oh, let me check out their school, right? Like that.
Right.
Or I was in Seattle. I went to a school. I was obviously in Rockford, Illinois. Del Rosso Submissionist Wrestling. Shout out to them. That's where I started. That's my coach.
Oh, yeah.
And then in Chicagoland area, there's another school. Here in Charlotte, I went to another school. Consistently, people across the board have told me, asked me if I've wrestled before. And I never, ever wrestled.
Okay.
They think my jiu-jitsu rolling style is very similar to someone who's wrestled before.
Okay.
I just don't like,
you don't float the hips as much. Do you are you more directional with your hips?
Yeah, and I keep my legs wide. Like,
yep.
It's different. I don't know how to explain it.
Sure.
That's what they say. But I've rolled against wrestlers. Like even at my prime, let's just say, my little prime, right?
Yeah.
This guy about my size walked in, maybe 10, 15 pounds heavier, walked in, and he had never done jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
But he was a college wrestler.
Yeah.
Right? My coach is like, Kaya, you guys go at it. And we're talking about competitive 100%. Of course, that's my school too. Right. So this guy's new.
Yeah.
So if, my ego, I'm going to go at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, that was a fight. Like, I had never gone that hard on any fight. Like, it was just hardcore. We rolled for 5 minutes. It was a 3-minute session. The bell went off. We just kept going. We didn't care. It was just like one of those things, right? Well, long story short, I ended up submitting to that. I ended up tapping to that, and that's because he didn't. He ended up mounting, and then he just kind of squeezed me. That was it. There's no technique. I was like, okay, tap.
Right.
The dude was so good.
Yeah.
He's so good at wrestling. Like I couldn't control that guy. That's how good wrestling is. If you've never done wrestling, you should 100% do wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Have you done wrestling?
So because my Muay Thai instructor liked introducing elements of wrestling and I got a little bit of an exposure to it. So that's where I truly learned how to sprawl. That's where I kind of learned the difference. I noticed enough of a difference to be able to respect the arts individually. And then recently, between going to Knife Control Concepts with Aaron Donetti and Eli Knight, of course, Eli has an incredible jiu-jitsu background. Between that and training with the Combatives Association Summit instructors, they tend to, and of course, ShiftWorks, Craig Douglas, ECQC, all of those courses, they tend to take a wrestling approach to the hand-to-hand combatives part. So say you're trying to control someone's hand, they're reaching for their weapon inside the waistband, doing a 2-on-1 on their hand, and then driving your head into their temple. Of course, dragging their weight down, getting heavy on that hand. That's all very wrestling influenced, as opposed to maybe some type of jiu-jitsu submission. Not that that wouldn't help at all, of course, because like, for example, a back take in jiu-jitsu can be applied to a weapon 2-on-1. If you're, if you've already taken someone's back and you see that they're going for their gun, the hand placement doesn't change much. You're just controlling that wrist that is grabbing for the gun. Same thing with a knife. So that's been my exposure.
That's very good. And I want to jump into, like, segue into that stuff, the combat sports and real life scenarios. So you said you've got experience on edge weapons, right?
Yes.
At least you're doing some training. You've got a hobby, obviously, right?
Yes.
So what are some of your recommendations, some of the things that you've learned when someone is attacking another person with an edge weapon? Like, a lot of times people think that they can disarm the person or they're not going to get cut.
Right.
But in my experience is you get cut. So what do you want to say about that stuff?
Absolutely.
Because it happens.
Yes, it does. And I think the best way to learn this is to grapple with a knife. So like if you're someone who already does jiu-jitsu, just throw a knife into the mix.
An actual knife, or you want to do
excuse me. No, not an actual knife. This is like that disclaimer that comes on coffee.
Next thing you know, the person's like,
hot. Yeah. And
I tried that with my cousin and he's
he's dead now. Anyway. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So it was better left unsaid, but anyway. Yeah, so definitely get a training knife. They have them for like $7 on Amazon. Of course, if you're someone who's actually interested in carrying a knife, I highly recommend the Shivworks Collective. Just go to their shop. They have some incredible options, and then they have trainers made for that. And they're coming out, or they have already come out with I believe, don't quote me on this, but a G10 blade. So it'll be a blade that is not detected by metal detectors.
Carbon fiber or something?
I believe that's what G10 is. I'm not totally familiar. I'm sure someone listening is like pounding their steering wheel right now, like trying to say it. But so that is an option. It's also lighter. So if you're someone who carries a lot inside your waistband, maybe you're rocking, an El Nino Shivworks blade, an IWB holster with a sidecar, like, having that weight difference can be great. So
of course, yeah.
Yeah. So throwing a knife, and I agree, you will get cut. And like I said, the best way to experience that is to grapple with a knife. I know, at this point, I didn't mention this. I did Krav as well during my childhood.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Absolutely.
Is that effective? Is that pretty good or no? Or is that snake oil? Go ahead.
I didn't train it enough to know. I will say, I believe there are more effective martial arts. I believe investing your time in something like wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and then getting specialty classes like those with knife control concepts. Shivworks has an edge weapons overview EWO class. Taking those classes and then bringing that training back to a trusted training partner, taking videos of your training, writing down the techniques, and then bringing that back with your training partner and drilling those is far more effective. Learning a good 2-on-1. I recently, Lisa and I met a police officer at the training, and we spoke to him about one of his situations as a civilian walking around where he was ambushed with a knife, and he said he just naturally went to the 2-on-1. So that's basically like if someone is stabbing out, you have your hands stacked on their hands and you're dragging their weight down, you're keeping the weapon away from you. So just learning a good 2-on-1, learning a good submission from that standpoint, choosing one and drilling that from, of course, both sides, and putting some pressure, some resistance into that, giving the element of surprise, playing with things like that. That's far more effective, in my opinion, than just getting your black belt in Krav Maga. But I've also not done that. So
yeah, I honestly, we've watched a lot of videos on the streets in my past, in the past, let's just say. I've seen a couple of things too. People, two things happen, right? I mean, I don't want to say two things happen. Two things I want to mention, let's just say. A bad guy generally grabs the person, either collar or clothing, keep the person at bay, and just keep doing this.
Yes.
Right? And the person is unable to kind of break that distance.
Right.
And the guy is just constantly doing this. And that's a bad day, right?
Right.
You want to be able to get close and get control of that hand that is actually posing the threat, right?
Right.
And the other thing I've seen from victims, they try to punch the person.
Right.
Listen, at that point, the most important thing is for you to be able to control that hand that's swinging the blade at you.
Absolutely.
That is the most important thing. You punching, unless you're going to throw one punch and that guy's out, if you want to take your chances on that one.
Right.
But you want to control that. I've seen like a bad guy just attack with a knife.
Yes.
And the guy's just like swinging at the person.
Right.
I'm like,
Being
dude,
stabbed.
you're going to die. Right. That those punches are not going to work. You can land them, but he's still going to hit you.
Right.
He's still going to cut you. So that's why that 2-on-1, a lot of times that's what they train, even law enforcement academies or tactical academies like the combat, whatever academies that you've gone to.
Yes.
That's what they generally train. You want to control that arm.
Right.
As soon as you control it, your life depends on it.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Yes.
So no, that's a very, very good point. And so in real life, what I like doing is if I'm ever training on this, get a Sharpie or a little dry ease out, right?
Absolutely.
Put a white shirt on. The other person has a white shirt on.
Right.
And literally say, go at it. You have that Sharpie and you try to stab me with it.
Right.
And then by the time the fight is over, you kind of see how many times you've been cut.
Yes.
That's a good one too. I know they make those training knives. They got like the taser.
Yes, they have the taser knives. Yes, taser knives are fun. Yeah, they do suck. They're very humbling. Absolutely. And the same goes for a firearm.
That's right.
I have a great. There's a brand called Clanton Combatives, and he makes these training pistols that have rubber trigger guards, so that if you accidentally get your finger, lodged in the trigger guard when you're training,
you don't break your finger.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have that problem with blue guns. That's why they end up shaving off the actual trigger guard portion of the blue gun. But Clanton thinks ahead with that. So he's very gratefully sent me a few of his pistols to do that with. So, and they're red, they stick out really well. So they're easy to see as far as like training manipulation. Whenever you're viewing your training later in a video, it's nice to be able to break that down and see it clearly. So, shameless plug there for Clanton, but same thing goes for that. As far as like seeing where that moment when this guy and I totally went at it at the summit, I put on my helmet.
Your little helmet. I want to see that now. We should put a picture on the screen.
Is it in the car? I think it's in the car. I'll make sure you get a picture. Actually, I'll send you a video. I'll do you one better. I'll send you a video of me grappling in it. Yeah. Absolutely. But this guy, dude's like 6'5". Hank was like 200 and probably 40 pounds. Dude's huge. We're going at it, and like that moment where you see that gun come out of the waistband and like them starting to flare out the muzzle, you're like, oh crap, like things are about to get serious. So that's a lesson as well, seeing where the muzzle direction is. And
100%. It's that's a completely different training too.
Yes.
Have you had any real world troubles, experiences when it comes to any combative stuff? Like it could include fighting, someone attacking you, hand-to-hand fighting, or knives or guns, anything like that.
Yes. I didn't think of this earlier when we had our pre-show chat, but I do remember in high school, I would go to the football games. I was dating, the classic high school jock. I didn't understand football though, and I still don't really. I went for the social hour of it all.
You and me both.
Anyway, absolutely. It's the way to be. Anyway, so I was in the stands, and of course I wasn't part of the drinking crowd in high school. But you have that drinking crowd. This guy behind me, he was kind of known for being a bit of a creep to women at the school.
Wait, you're this other guy?
This other guy,
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
My boyfriend was playing football. I remember we got in a fight one time because he said, I looked up in the stands and you weren't even watching. You were talking to people. And I was like, oh, probably because I don't understand the game.
I was telling them how good you were.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Look at
It's amazing. I love that. Damn it, I should have used that. So, this guy, I didn't understand. This is more of a funny story. He actually was grabbing my shoulder for stability. He was falling over drunk. I didn't know that though. Jack was not someone that I wanted to grab my shoulder ever. So I remember he grabbed it, and I I took his hand in mine, like clinched it to my shirt. I was like, it's mine now. And then I like dragged his arm down and like grabbed the back
Like
of his
hip tossed?
elbow. Well, I was going to do an arm bar. And it was not the best place to do an arm bar because
were you doing jiu-jitsu back then?
This was actually my traditional martial arts in Krav.
I see. Okay.
This was actually from that. So I know I just kind of said that thing about Krav, but so grabbed it, started to arm bar him, and dude was just begging. He was like, whoa, 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 whoa. He was like, I'm sorry, I'm just drunk. I'm not trying to touch you. And I was ready to be like,
let's go, man.
Just drag him down the stands. And I remember before that, I was always nervous that maybe I wouldn't be able to react in a situation like that, but I had the muscle memory of someone grabbing and like going from there. I also had a little bit of trauma from my childhood with the grabbing. So when he grabbed me, it was immediate. And so that was my first like, oh, I can do this. Yeah. The other one I love to tell you about today, it was a verbal incident, because I don't think this is talked about enough, how our voice is an incredibly powerful weapon. It can be the difference between you actually having to use your firearm and not using it. I mean, how powerful is that? And I didn't realize that until I took Extreme Close Quarter Concepts with Craig Douglas. It was my first actually formal class ever. We spent the entire first night yelling at each other. So to give context, he teaches something called managing unknown contacts. So this is where you have someone approach you and you walk in a arc-like function. So you're not function, arc-like direction, circle. Okay. Yeah. So you're kind of not like crossing your feet and tripping yourself up, but you start creating space by walking back and around. So that way you can get a better view of your surroundings. You start using certain language. So if someone comes up, hey, what can I do to help you? I need you to stop right there, right? Someone's coming to your space. You start feeling uncomfortable. Maybe there's some pre-assault cues you're picking up on, and you just don't like how they're closing that distance, right? Because that's where shit gets real. That's where like people start to really gain that power dynamic that turns into something so ugly. So if you can stop them and be like, hey, I need you to back up, right? Someone continues to close in that space, like start getting louder, saying things like back the F up, not just back up. Starting to gain access to your firearm. If that's presenting this arm out, if that's doing thumb pectoral index and getting the firearm in close because they're closing that distance pretty quickly, that's getting access to your firearm. Maybe it's just pepper spray at this point. Maybe it's someone's belligerent uncle at a wedding and you don't want to shoot them, so you're getting your pepper spray out, all of that stuff is so under practiced and represented in this industry because it's not sexy. You know what I mean? Like a video of someone yelling at someone, sure, like it might get some views if they think there's about to be a fight, but as far as like talking about verbal de-escalation and of course using things like non-lethals and pepper spray, stuff like that, that's not talked about as much. So this incident, I remember I was on a date with a partner who, this is when I was deciding, like we all do when we're in our early 20s. I think I was actually 20 at the time.
Okay.
I didn't realize that it was important for me to have a partner who was of the protector mentality. I was always that way, so I felt like I was able to sustain myself on that. But the man I was with had not been raised or even had experiences that led him to that protector mentality.
He was not really that protector kind of guy.
Absolutely not. Total sweetheart.
What do women think about those guys?
What do they really think?
Yeah.
I think we wish that was different sometimes. And okay, you know what? This is a whole other tangent. I will tell you this, though. Here's the deal. I think we get stuck between wanting to be these independent, powerful, self-sustained women and wanting to also feel protected. And I think sometimes we think we can't have both because one might take away from the other. There's something so true about divine femininity. And as I've been married before, and I didn't, in that marriage and in several relationships before that, I can tell when my partner is of the protector mentality, I'm in my divine feminine. I might be carrying a pistol. I might be, aware of my surroundings, but partner.
You may be a black belt, jiu-jitsu, all of that stuff.
Yes.
It doesn't. You may be even more powerful physically than your partner.
Absolutely.
More skilled, but still. Go ahead.
But still feel protected. and safe with that person. And I've learned that that's important to me. I didn't have that perspective when I was 20. Obviously, he was my high school sweetheart. You know, I cared about him so much. I always thought, you know, if something happens, I'll just protect him. It's fine. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
So,
I'll take care of him.
Exactly.
I got you, baby.
Exactly. Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
That's not good.
Yeah. No, it wasn't great
Come
at the time. Good for him though. I mean, he's got a sweet deal. So
he definitely did. Yeah, for sure.
And it's funny. This night, I remember I was going out and I remember thinking, I was like, I'm really taking a chance here because I'm wearing heels and hoops. Okay. 2 things that just don't go well in a fight.
Yep.
And a skirt, which I had to work on getting
no kicks that
used to
day.
skirt. Yeah, I mean, just flash everybody. So we're walking out of this restaurant and our car got booted because the system was down, and this older lady, I'd say she was in her late 50s, maybe early 60s, was responsible for updating the system and for putting the boots on the cars, which looking back, I have no idea how she did that. They were so heavy. But there was this group of frat boys, and I know they're frat boys. I'm not profiling.
They're pretty obvious. Let's just say that.
Exactly. They had tube socks and Sperry's, and their shirts said like Sigma Chi, which if it wasn't really Sigma Chi, excuse me if you're listening, I probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast. Moving on. So these guys are yelling belligerently at this woman. They're saying, are we allowed to cuss on this podcast? I probably should have asked you that. It's probably not the best.
No,
they were saying like, what the F is wrong with you? You know, get this off my effing car, you B. Okay.
Oh, wow.
there's the clean version. And, oh my gosh. I remember and here's the deal. I want to be very clear. I am not a proponent for inserting yourself into situations. Okay. This was me being myself. This was my decision. Ultimately, I was very lucky. Nothing happened because this is before concealed carry. This is
and
before
you were 20.
managing unknown contacts. I was 20. I thought I was the shit though. It
and
was
you
when
had
I
to
was
protect your
training Myay Thai.
boyfriend.
I had to protect my boyfriend. So I see this and I start making a beeline for these men. I'm ripping out my hoops. I'm starting to take my heels off. I'm like, you guys get the, I was like, I'm going to take your hand. I'm going to shove it down his throat. I'm going to shake his hand through. I said some really vulgar stuff. And I was like, get back. I felt like the veins in my neck were bulging because one of the guys, the leader of the don't say something mean of the dudes was walking over. I don't know what he's going to do to her. I didn't know. And this woman kind of reminded me of my mom. You know, she's like around the same age at the time. And I was just planning on just killing all of them.
Was the woman doing anything? Oh, wow.
No, she was cowering. She was like, I'm so sorry. She was apologizing. There was no reason for what they were doing. So I blacked out. All I remember is I was right in front of them.
You were in condition, basically black.
Yes, yeah. I agree. So, and I remember sitting there, like, I even like flared my arms out to have like, look bigger. And then I look back and my partner is just standing there like in shock. All the way back.
Because you know what he's thinking? He's like, oh, God, these guys aren't going to touch her. They're going to come beat the crap out of me.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Looking back, I actually don't blame him for not doing anything, but I also would have appreciated had he been next to me. Does that make sense? Because that time it would have taken for him to run and sprint to get to me, if he would have. Yeah. And so basically the story, the guys were like, oh, so sorry, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. We're being ridiculous. We hear ourselves. And then they would start back up again. So I finally got to where I was like, get in the car and sit in there. And I like made them sit in the car and I like stood next to their car and like stared at them. The 3 guys.
Oh, the guys.
Made them
okay.
Get in their car.
Gotcha.
I made them, pipe down, as they say.
So you use your like voice.
Yes,
your
my
demeanor,
voice.
Like,
I had nothing
presence.
on me. I had no weapons.
Yeah.
I just, at the time I believe that's when I was kind of starting Muay Thai. I knew enough to get me in trouble.
Gotcha.
I was like, I can take him. Looking back, oh my gosh, I am so glad nothing happened. And had I had a pistol on, nothing would have changed about that incident.
The thing is, they could have had on one.
Yes, they absolutely could have.
On the streets, you don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't looking at their waistband. I wasn't watching all 3 of their hands where they were moving. Yeah. If they had gone to retrieve something from the car, wasn't thinking like that. Yeah. If things that... Don't get me wrong, at the same time, I'd do it all over again, right? It'd look a little
I was going
to
ask you, if you went back, what would you... If that happened today, how would you react?
Differently. I would already have my pepper spray in my hand walking over. I would, as I believe it's John Murphy of FPF training, he teaches like the the palm pepper spray, like a snake trick where you just like, you're flicking the tip of the, you know, the thing you
The
flip
stream?
up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're kind of like just playing with the
Yeah.
thing to kind of, you're not like clicking it, but you're getting your thumb into that activation
Okay.
part. He teaches that. So I'd probably have that going off to the side just to let them know I have something.
Would you have employed any de-escalation techniques? Like go out there, hey guys,
Yes.
you know what's going on? Hey,
Absolutely.
listen, would you try that first now? or
That's
no?
a great question. I think I would have done the same. I probably would have used less accusatory language, like
Okay.
called them less things, if that makes sense. There's a way to use the F word. Get the F back, not
That's
you're a
right.
mother effer, right? There's a
Yeah.
way to do that where you are commanding, you're not antagonizing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And Craig teaches that in his course way better than what I just said. But there's a little taste of that. I believe we were past the point of saying, guys, could you step back? I think we're being a little dramatic here. Dude was moving towards her.
Yeah.
So I had very little time to act in. So I wouldn't have changed the how loud I was. I would have changed
Yeah.
maybe some of the language in an ideal setting, of course. And of course there were people around. I drew attention to us by yelling really loud. That was part of it. So like people stopped to watch too. So we had like
Yeah.
a crowd, which was
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
it was great. I was taking off my heels. I was ready to sprint. I was like, I don't care about broken glass right now. I'm going to mess them up. So
yeah. No,
that's
funny.
that's probably
That's
how
real.
I would how I would adjust that now, and would have never pulled my gun out, would have never had to. Maybe would have felt a little better having it on me.
When did you start carrying?
Started carrying around 21, actually, like 21 years of age. That's around the time I'm 26 now. That's around the time I realized I wasn't going to be able to do full combatives, and I didn't find out about Red Beard Combatives helmets and I didn't find out about combative jiu-jitsu, any of that world, until recently. And now there's no excuse for me not to train, so that's why I'm doing it. Just
Because
kidding.
you got your helmet now.
I got my helmet.
Yeah.
Super sexy. I'm never going to pick up a guy at jiu-jitsu. I know that, and I've accepted that. And that's okay. Because you honestly, like dating at your jiu-jitsu gym, that's a whole other podcast
I
episode.
would not do
It's
that.
not the
I
best
don't
thing
recommend that at all.
No.
Somebody's going to have to leave that gym.
Exactly.
After, yeah.
Someone's going to have to get out of there. So all that to say, I started... I had
carrying the guns like 5 years ago?
Yes, about 5 years ago. I had no business carrying it for about those first 2 years, honestly. The fact that I did, knowing what I know now, is horrifying.
What state do you live in?
I live in Arkansas.
And what's your carry statute over there?
So we have constitutional carry right now, which is...
North
really
Carolina.
great.
We're waiting on you now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I appreciate that about Arkansas for sure. I still have my license though.
Okay, so
Yes.
you have but you also have a license that applies to a bunch of states, right?
Has
But
some
you can-
reciprocity, absolutely.
Okay, and first 2 years you just constitutionally carried, or you had a license?
License. I got my license before I ever put the gun on my body. I felt better doing that, especially when I was traveling in a car, things like that. Being able to have my license ready when the cop comes up to the... Not that I had a habit of getting pulled over, but
Yeah.
but yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, and you said you had no business carrying for the first 2 years. Why is that?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said it like that, but looking back, I think just the mode...
I think people
of
could
carry.
learn from that.
Absolutely, and I'm so happy to share it. So as far as the holster brand itself, I was not carrying the highest quality holster. It was... I'll totally say it. It was a We the People holster. It's not one I would use nowadays. As far as the quality of materials and the fit of the gun, I've become a good acquaintance of mine, Andrew Henry of Henry Holsters. Okay, he's a friend. I'll say it.
Okay.
I don't know if he called me a friend, so I don't want to say that. And then but yeah, no, he's a buddy.
Okay.
He's great. So he has state of the art materials for creating. For holster manufacturing, and he's just become my standard for holsters.
Gotcha.
And he actually came on my podcast. You guys should absolutely have a conversation.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes, he's incredible. So just looking back at like even just the materials I was carrying with, as far as trigger discipline, I knew to keep my finger. I was so scared to pull the trigger that I would always be very diligent. And I would have my finger, I would watch my finger on the trigger going.
So it was a very conscious thing,
Yes.
not really a muscle memory thing.
Right, absolutely. So, but no one had taught me like indexing the gun high on your index finger high on the slide. So that was always something I wish someone would have shown me then.
Did you not have a class when you were doing your little
Not really.
license thing?
I had the concealed carry licensure class is just for the legality of Arkansas with a small shooting portion to see if you can actually hit a target
Gotcha.
from like 5 yards. It's not much at all. It's definitely not a learning opportunity.
Gotcha.
So
just check a box. That's it.
Exactly. I had trained with a friend of mine, and he has since become he's grown so much as an instructor, but like, he didn't know to teach me things like look when you reholster and like as far as like when does the finger go on the trigger when you're presenting out in concealed carry, what is the difference between a full presentation and a thumb pectoral index for defensive purposes, all that stuff I had to learn as I went on. So yeah, looking back, I could have drawn, if someone came up and bum rushed me and pushed me down, could I have drawn from my holster and you know fired off a few shots? I don't, probably not, honestly.
Yeah, you gotta train for those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I treated it more like a rabbit's foot, as many do, right? We treat it like it's going to ward off eagle.
Yeah.
Eagles, man.
Eagles,
man. Ward off evil. So once I started training with it,
you touch a very good point here. So we're transitioning into this whole concealed carry. This is really what I want to pick your brains on, especially as a female, right? And I'm sure a lot of female folks who are watching this, they'd love to hear some of your experiences. But people, what you just said, I think that's a lot of people. People just go get their license or constitutional carry, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
They'll go to an indoor range somewhere, fire a few rounds in a weaver stance.
Yes.
That's it. And if you are that person, I'm not here to attack you at all.
Right.
I'm just here to give you a wake-up call. That is not how real life works. You really do need to train, get your heart rate up. Even if you don't do anything at all, you could be stationary, draw your weapon, and deal with a threat. Your heart rate is going to go up to 170, 180, in that neighborhood. And you're going to feel like you just ran miles. And can you continue that fight? And a lot of people don't train. They don't do they don't induce stress into their training. Let's just say it that way. So you have to induce stress to your training. You can do your fundamentals at the range. You can do lateral left, lateral right, knee, and take cover. Do little tack reloads or actual speed reloads, all of that stuff. But you have to induce stress into your training too. And I've done that a lot with the dummy guns, right? You just let a person attack you.
Yes.
You start rolling. And
try to access it.
You try to get your gun or you try to keep the person at bay. And next thing you know, you got your ass kicked.
Absolutely.
And it feels good. Yeah,
yes.
Very, very humbling. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Oh, no. I love this. This is great.
Yeah. So, in your case, we're talking about inducing stress and all that stuff. And you said you immediately jumped into your equipment thing, right? Besides all that. Tell us about the importance of equipment. Like even gun, what gun do you carry right
Absolutely.
now?
So right now I'm carrying the Rose P365 by SIG-SAR.
Okay. Back in the day?
Back in the day, it was a Glock 43X. So absolutely no issue with that choice. I still carry the Glock 43X sometimes. Yeah. It's incredibly easy to conceal. I had irons. I did trade out my irons for some Trijicon HDXRs. That was a great choice.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Glock 43X, fantastic gun. SIG-Sauer obviously is amazing. I picked the SIG over Glock, even though I love Glocks. They're very good, but SIG, it's just a better choice in my opinion. But you have actually picked a couple of good quality guns. And when it comes to holsters, you touch base a very good point. Equipment, a lot of people don't think. They're like, you know what, I'm just going to, and I understand some people can't afford it. I totally get it. But if your life depends on it, which it does, right? You're there to kind of protect yourself and those around you.
Right.
You really got to somehow get good stuff. Like your original holster versus the one that you upgraded to. Tell us the differences.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as the craftsmanship, Henry holsters, the equipment that he has access to make the holster a perfect fit for your firearm. That's one of my holster criteria. Like when I go into my discussion on concealed carry fanny packs, I have a list of criteria that I think the fanny pack should have to be the most efficient and safe mode of fanny pack carry. And one of those is that the holster is made specifically for that firearm, that there is no compromising when it comes to the manufacturing of it. I'm not in a place where I can compare the two holsters very well. But when it comes to his standard, it's an industry standard. He has been a consultant on several other holster manufacturers. If you all are familiar with the Filster Enigma, he makes the holsters for the Filster Enigma for John and Sarah Hoffman. So that kind of tells you a little bit about that. And then as far as just not understanding the dangers of hybrid holsters after repeated use, I should say that.
Hybrid, like, I mean, they do two things okay. But I don't want that. I want one thing to be done, and that to be done great.
Absolutely.
That's really what I look for.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to holsters for me, like, I want that trigger guard obviously protected. I want good materials, good retention, because I may be fighting somebody. I don't want that gun flying around, which happens.
Right.
Okay, those leather holsters out there, they're very comfortable, but it's a very good chance you're going to lose that gun if you're jumping fences or whatever you end up doing. So, concealed carry. You've been carrying for 5 years.
Yes.
Pretty good gun. 6 Hour over there. What kind of optic is that?
This is the Romeo X. And I should mention, I am one of the assistant instructors for the Rose by 6 Hour program. So under Lena Michalik.
Lena,
yes.
Okay.
So I'm a little biased here.
Okay, that is a really good one. So, quick. I'm just going to insert this. Me and Sofia, we met at the SIG's Next event just a few months back. It was a really good time, and I sat actually with Lena.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, we were assigned.
You guys were okay.
We, the random assignment, and it was just me, Ryan. We had Aaron, and we had Angel from 6 Hour.
Yeah,
and then we had Lena.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was talking about that gun. Actually, it looks really cool.
It's actually really good. You want to see it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it
yet?
yet?
Look at it?
Absolutely. So if anyone's listening and you're wondering, how is the Rose unique? It's essentially
it's rose color.
XL. Yes, it's rose colored. We have some accents.
Yeah.
Besides the rose stippling, of course, that's really fun.
Yeah.
We have the rose gold accents on the trigger. We have that on the slide lock lever. On where else are you seeing it? We have it in.
Yeah. So the external safety, and you got the slide lock, and then the field strip thing, and then you got trigger, and then back plate, and on the Romeo.
So
optic.
details on the Romeo X, exactly.
That's it. I would think the barrel would be too.
Yes,
no?
we would think that. I appreciate what I appreciate about Lena is she wanted to make it a female-centric gun, but not make it super female flashy. Thank you.
Gotcha.
So appreciate the slide lock. Yeah. You're a professional. So, but yeah, so she wanted to make this feminine, but not overly feminine.
Yeah.
And if you ever meet Lena,
not like your ex-boyfriend level.
Oh, exactly. Sorry. That was really funny. Sorry. Oh, that's so funny. And my best friend is sitting off to the side. She knows that whole story. So seeing her laugh about that too is just the cherry on top. Anyway, so yeah, absolutely love this. My second favorite is the X Macro. I have pretty large hands for a female. Like
you do have, you have bigger hands than John. That's for sure.
Oh, John. Let's compare, John. I'm just kidding. But yeah, these are great violin piano fingers.
Yeah. We have so many things to talk about.
We do.
I play the guitar, but here's.
Oh yes, you do. I saw your
video. My favorite instrument is violin.
Really?
Yes, then piano, and then guitar, and here I am just playing the guitar. But okay.
Hey, I get it though. Guitar is beautiful. I wish I played the guitar. I can.
You can, but because if you can do violin, I'm sure.
Couple different strings, different lengths of the board.
We'll have
technique.
to try it out.
Yeah, we'll have to. Oh God, oh no. But yeah, so how did we get on that topic? Yeah,
so we're up. Yeah, the
Rose.
Yes,
absolutely. Like I said, I'm biased. The X Macro is great because of my larger hands. I appreciate having a bit more to grip. Excuse me. The XL is perfect for my grip. I'm able to get a full purchase, but I like having a little bit more to love on.
On the grip or overall the slide and everything?
Overall, so the slide is only like 0.5 inches longer on the X
Yeah.
Macro.
Mhm.
And Lisa and I were talking about this earlier. We feel like the X Macro grip is a bit girthier. So like that gives
Yeah.
us more to grab. And of course you have the interchangeable back strap on the X
Yep.
Macro as compared to the Rose platform does not have that. And that's definitely something I would love to see going forward. But no, this is an incredible
It
starter
really
pistol.
is. It's I feel like that's a really sweet spot, especially like Rose would be like more on the female side, right? And a lot of times I think female hands are, generally speaking, not
yes,
always,
generally speaking, and that's why they
So-
have the XL version. Of course, this is the comped version as well.
Gotcha.
And for anyone listening, if you're thinking like, why would I get the Rose and not just the standard XL? It's really just if you want the package, like if you want the Rose package. So it comes with a Vault-Tec safe. It has some other storage solutions. Comes with snap caps and of course a step-by-step to get to the online instructionals
I
by
see.
Lena
Oh,
Mitchell.
okay.
So
That is super cool.
it's so great, but you could also buy the XL and then just take her course. Like
Gotcha.
you can still do that. And so, you know, Lena they don't pay me to say like buy the Rose no matter what. That's the short and sweet of it. I'm definitely getting one for my sister soon. Like that's worth it to me. Her having that whole package and a safety option, a storage option just right away without having to buy her 20 different products. I mean,
it makes sense, and it is a great gun.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if somebody pays the person. It really is a legitimately. I mean,
Yes.
6 hour P365s are amazing. So on concealed carry,
Yes.
where do you like the carry generally? Like on your person when it comes to holster carry, and also I want to talk about some other options that I know you have.
Absolutely. So yes, my favorite is appendix inside the waistband. It's a forever journey.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's one of those. It's always each outfit is a new trial for sure. I'm lucky. My best friend is a wizard at concealing, so I'm lucky to have her to be like, "Can you see it from this angle?"
Okay.
I'll do my little twirl, and she helps me with that. My fanny pack though has recently become one of my favorite concealment methods. Speaking of weapons-based entanglement training, I mentioned I have a buddy that I grapple with. I think I said earlier, if you can go to these specialty events, bring back some techniques to drill with someone and work with someone trusted, do that. And I have her. Her name's Arlena. She's incredible. And I had her just fight me with a fanny pack and a blue gun. And I was
You had the gun?
very much. I had the gun.
Okay.
I told her we're going to grapple. I'm going to go for my gun at some point. I want to see what she does. So she just did a 2-on-1. It's so natural. Like it's just getting those two hands there. She grabbed my fanny pack. She started to do, I think what you were describing earlier, like an Ezekiel choke. So she grabbed fanny pack, like secured that strap, started to go back and crank. And we were just standing up. She was just like crawling on me doing this Ezekiel choke. And I was like, well, crap, you know?
Yeah.
Because if you carry it across the chest, as opposed to the hips, it's higher on your neckline. It's a strap that can be used to choke. If you carry it on your hips, you run the risk of having trouble accessing it if you're in like a kind of like a closed up position, don't have as much space to access. So there's so many sides to each form of concealed carry. For the safest solution, like if I had to lead a perfect life and never have issues concealing in outfits and be able to have my gun on me everywhere, even like in my gym outfit, I'd carry inside the waistband. It's easiest to access from my experience grappling and trying to access my weapon.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's actually very true. They all have their pros and cons, of course. Like I used to carry it like, what is it, like 5 o'clock?
Yeah. Okay.
Right there.
Yeah.
I did that for years.
How was that? Like when you would sit down, was it an issue?
No, when I sat down, I actually had a problem. Like, you know, sometimes depending on the size of the gun, right? You could just be really poking yourself.
Yes, it can.
And you bend down and grab something, tie your shoes, whatever, you know, really the gun inside the waistband kind of gets in the way.
Right.
The 5 o'clock one, definitely harder to access.
Yeah.
Right? Especially with two hands.
Right.
Right? How do you kind of get there?
100%,
That's the inside the waistband, at least you can still access with your other hand if you needed to.
Right.
And it just wouldn't poke, obviously. I was able to conceal it pretty good because I arch on my back, kind of, you know, just wear a little looser shirt, which is really hard for me to do, but sometimes I have to.
Right.
So it was that, but it was comfortable for me. But if you sat down, like you kind of bend forward, it kind of sticks out.
Right.
So it had its pros and cons, right?
Right.
If somebody's coming at you and they're just like on you, they're on top of you, you can't really get to that gun.
Right.
You
And do you even want to at that point?
Yeah,
Right.
that's obviously going to situation dependent.
Right, absolutely. Yes.
It can be the call that the person's going to have to make.
Right.
But I personally really enjoy inside the waistband. A lot of people, I don't know how you feel about this, like you're kind of flagging yourself with your own gun at all times.
Right.
And it is true.
Yeah.
There's some vitals there too, especially for men, but also
Yes.
that we got the femoral artery in our legs.
Absolutely.
So there's that, but
Right.
that's why equipment selection
Yes.
is so important.
Exactly.
Right? Training and proper equipment.
Yes.
And you can have the best equipment in the world. You got to also look what's inside that
Yes.
holster. You can't just like be jamming that thing in there.
Right.
Next thing you
Yes.
know, you are neutered.
Yes,
So-
100%. It's so sad. Even to this day, I recently was in a class where this very high level instructor, with a real gun that had been cleared, no chamber flag, but we all inspected the chamber, just reholstered willy nilly.
Yeah.
And every single time gun was canted in. And, especially when I'm teaching women, I like to take time. I'll literally stop talking in the class. I will push my hips forward. I will watch the muzzle go down into my holster once I make sure there's nothing in the holster, and then I will resume talking. So I show them that so that, monkey see, monkey do. They're going to repeat what we do. And so, yes, doing things like that, having those techniques along with good gear, reliable gear. I mean, if you're going to have a gun pointing at your body, it might as well be secured in something reliable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's a very good point. And you said you train women. So what do you say to women who are watching you right now and they want to really carry, but they're, people, unfortunately, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
People are reluctant to carry a gun. They're kind of scared of it.
Absolutely.
They just, all of these things.
Right.
Especially some women.
Yes.
What would you say to them? How would you encourage them to exercise their Second Amendments, obviously protect themselves and those around them, at least have an avenue to? And how should they go about that?
It's a great question. You would think I had a totally prepared response, but I will start with, don't be afraid to invest in a professional class. I think sometimes people think something will be too high level for them, so finding a class that suits your needs. The Rose program is a really good example. We're very limited, and this isn't a promotion for that event necessarily, because we only have a few events a year as of now. Of course, we're ending the 2024 season, but I would say investing in a class that will teach you proper fundamentals, and then juicing that class for everything it is. And of course, beforehand, vetting your instructors, right? So what are their credentials? Is it just an NRA, certification?
Oh my
have
God.
they just kind of been teaching for like a few months, or can you find someone who is experienced? Are they also a competition shooter on the side? Do they have, like, what other courses have they taken? I have a website, and the only reason I pay for that thing is for my portfolio. I want people to be able to go see the instructors I've trained with. And I'm filling this page up. Like, my goal is to just like fill that page up with as much as I can. I've shadowed multiple instructors. I've AI'd for multiple instructors. And that has prepared me. I'm Range Master certified. I've done things that have helped me grow as not only a shooter, but an instructor. And so vetting your instructor first is the biggest thing. And then once you go to that course, juicing it for all it is. So taking a notepad, taking notes on what you learn, and applying that to what you can do going forward. So if you guys practice dry fire in the class, writing down steps to dry fire. So determine a safe direction, right? Find a wall that you're comfortable dry firing towards. Clear your magazine, clear your chamber, take your ammo out of the room. Okay, that's the next step. Now that you have the safe direction, communicate in your household, that you're using your firearm, and then set a goal. Like, is it just 50 reps to feel where the trigger resets? Is it 50 reps out of the waistband? So kind of writing yourself this plan for post class, because a lot of people take that 3-hour course and then don't do anything with it. And then making sure you ask that instructor what they recommend you do next. They're going to watch you in that class and see where you're at. If they recommend you taking maybe some privates with them, that might be the next step. If they recommend you take this defensive pistol class that's also taught next, they should have a hierarchy of what classes would be best for you next. I would do that. And if you're in a place where you can't afford a firearm and a gun, but you wouldn't utilize that gun until you understand the firearm, don't be afraid to get a loaner gun and invest that money in the course instead. That's kind of a recent thought I've been having. Like, what would someone do if they were financially limited there? Because it is an investment.
I guess I would say my just something pops in my head right
Please,
now.
yeah.
That a loaner gun, whatever that loaner gun is, make sure that is let's say a loaner Glock 43X. Let's just throw that out there, right?
It's a great one.
Make sure that if you're training on that, you're spending your time on it. Then make sure when you actually can afford to get one, get the same gun.
Absolutely.
So generally, or something very similar.
Yeah.
Because there's like a Beretta 92 and a Glock 17. They're completely different guns, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't want to go out there and train with a Beretta 92 as a loaner gun, right?
Right.
And then when it's time for me to conceal carry, let's say I'm going to get a Glock 19. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're two different because you're building muscle memory in one platform in a way. So it'd be just came in my mind. I think that loaner gun is sounds like a great idea.
If it's something you're already considering, so like we've been talking about the P365 XL a lot today. If you're like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. She's convinced me, she's influenced me.
Yeah.
You can find a range that will allow you to borrow a gun for that 100%. Class, and usually they'll have options, hopefully, and then try it out. That might be the one, the class that shows you that the XL isn't for you. Maybe you don't need that big of a grip. Maybe you have tiny hands and you want the standard because it's smaller and it's easier to conceal, and learning how to conceal is difficult. So having a smaller gun can help. Yeah.
No, that's a very good point. And you said you train women, so I want to go back to that.
Please,
so what kind of training do you provide, and how do they find you?
Absolutely. So I am a very novice level instructor. I have my website has that full portfolio if you all want to go check that out.
What is it?
So my website is fitforfia.com.
That's what I figured, but
yes, no, it's totally fine. I should have said that for sure. And it's linked in all of my social media channels. So you can go there and see my portfolio. Right now I'm just doing one-on-one sessions. I went to the Range Master course and I was an assistant instructor for a few instructors in the industry, and it has completely reshaped how I view classes and how I want to use that time. So I actually took down my classes for the end of this year, and I'm revamping my curriculum. And so my goal is to start fresh with that in 2025. My brand is technically called the Citizen Chameleon. So my goal was to have like a kind of a wise, what am I trying to say? Like a funny name that's, not so scary, but doesn't have anything like shooting in it, that will get flagged on social. So, the goal is to stand out in training, blend in for protection. And so my goal is to start providing tiers of classes. So basic pistol, and then basic concealed carry, defensive, and then a third tier. So that will be my 2025 goal. I've probably taught now about 5 basic pistol classes. So women's first introduction.
You put them together?
Women and men.
Like you were the one that put together those?
Yes, absolutely. I built the curriculum, everything.
Nice.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a range in my home city called Ozark Sportsman Range. So I teach there, but there's also an outdoor range. So I've done more one-on-ones than I have classes. And those are my favorite, of course, because we get the most time together and the price difference is almost nothing. So people typically like that.
That is awesome. And what I love about you is you put a lot of time in training your firearms, your equipment, but you also integrate the physicality, like the martial arts background you have. Because a lot of folks that we have, or women, it could be men too, doesn't matter. They do a lot of firearms training, but they don't really incorporate some body mechanics into it when it comes to actual from a martial arts perspective. Right? You can know a couple of things that people teach in academies, which, God, I mean, I want to touch base on that too. I don't want to take too much of your time here, but it's like when people do training, like deflecting the knife fight, the knife attacker, or somebody pulls a gun on you. Here's how you disarm people. I got a major problem with that. This is what my problem is. You can definitely train the fundamentals. Here's how you do 2-hand or just deflect or grab the gun, whatever. You can do that with no resistance, right? Because you want to get the fundamentals right. So you want to crawl before you run, right?
Right.
Well, I see a lot of instructors on the internet. They just show a guy, one of the students or whatever, role players, 0 resistance. The guy comes in with a knife like this, deflects it. Yeah. There it is.
Whoa.
And then reset. I was like, okay, fine. I'm on board with that. Can we just now do it with that guy actually resisting you?
Absolutely.
It's not going to be the same.
Right.
Okay. And I see that all the time, which I like that you're bringing the martial arts perspective to that, where you said your friend, attack me. I got the blue gun on me.
Yeah.
Those are so essential.
Absolutely.
Because that's real life. So I love that.
Thank you.
And you have a lot of experience in the last few years, especially being in the industry, your own channel, with different type of concealed carry guns. I know you said 43X and you got the 6 hour.
Yes.
Do you have experience with any other guns?
Yes, actually. So the first gun brand to ever contact me was Walther. And it was when they were launching the F series. So for those of you that don't know, the PDP platform is very popular for Walther.
I love them.
They're
good people too.
Yes,
shout out to Bernard BK from.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know. Tom and David. Yeah,
good deal. Guys. Yeah, and Chris Long. I don't know if you've met him. He's lovely.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and so. They called me. I thought it was a prank call. This was actually on my birthday, so I was like, "Who did this?" And they were like, "Hey, this is Sofia from Via." And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "We'd love to send you a PDPF, get your feedback, and have you be part of the launch." And I was like, "All right, who is this really?" Right. You know what I mean? They were like, "No, this is really Walther." So, like I said, first gun brand. It's how I met Tatiana Whitlock, my closest industry mentor. She's on the defense team. I had the pleasure of seeing the PDPF before it hit the market. I got to go to the range with Chris Long, one of the marketing personnel for Walther. And so it was a very special experience. It was my first gun following the 43X and the 19. So it felt like butter. It felt so different. Yeah. You know what I mean? Comfortable. It's literally contoured for a female's grip. They did research on the hand shape and size of women. They had a large sample size too, which I love that research background of me. I was like, let me see this research. And they based their contour grip on that. So I truly appreciate the PDPF. They have a 3.5 and a 4-inch. I recommend 3.5 inch. It's already a bit of a bulky gun. So the 3.5 inch is really helpful. Recently, Taurus actually came out with the GX4 carry. I had the pleasure of going to their range day experience. So that was of course something that they gifted to me. I want to be very clear about that. However, it's become one of my favorite options for people, especially people that are in a little bit more of a budget but want still a reliable pistol. And if you're hearing Taurus and you're like, what the hell? It's okay. You're allowed to have that reaction.
You know what?
But
a lot of people drink the Kool-Aid on like, oh, if it's not a known brand, I don't care about it. Hey, there's some hidden gems out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the GX4 carry, in my opinion, is one of them. I've put about
we should have a top 5
rounds. Fight. I would love to. Let's do it. Yeah, I think we should do that.
Top 5 fight. Yeah. I pick my 5, you pick your 5, and we kind of like have at it.
Let's do it. Absolutely. Put it to the test.
You got to put your mask on?
Maybe. Depends. Are we getting physical? Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if I could shoot through it, to be honest with you. It's like the eye window is like this big. It'll be hilarious.
I mean, I'd love to see it. That'd be funny if we have a little top 5 fight over there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Where I bring my 5, you 5, and you actually put your mask on.
Hey, I got you. Absolutely.
That is pretty cool. So I love it. Yeah, we should totally get there.
But it's a good gun. I think it's good. Yeah.
I think
you're really trying to fight me over here.
Hey, Ryan,
Blue belt against blue belt.
Did we not use that GX4 in the concealed carry video?
Did. In the micro carry. It's coming out soon.
Okay,
but
micro.
By the time this comes out, it'll be out.
Oh, great.
All right. So by the time this video is out, guys, definitely check out our micro compact and also compact guns on the main channel, Classic Firearms. And we should go ahead and do one with you now.
That sounds great.
With that being said, Sofia, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Great talk. Guys, check out Fit for FIA.
Absolutely.
FIA, right?
FIT, the number 4, FIA. And my podcast, if you don't mind, is She Shield Podcast. So that's SHESHIELD pod, POD. And we have some really cool highlights on our social media made by Lisa. I've only said her name like 10 times, but she makes some incredible highlights of our episodes. So you can kind of pick through that, maybe pick one that sounds interesting to you that you want to see more of. And we have everything linked in the bio, of course. So thank you so much for having me today. This has been so much fun. There's nothing I love more than talking about self-protection and connecting with the community like this. So appreciate you.
It's been an honor. Thanks a lot for taking the time coming over here. And now we're not done. We're just going to move on to the main channel.
Exactly.
All right, guys, take care. And also check out cfcontest.com. Good things happen there. As always, we appreciate your business. God bless. And we'll see you on the next one.